Are we ready to begin?
Yes, we are.
Okay, let's begin. Hello and welcome to this evening's Imagine Austin speaker series entitled Taking the Next Step in Civil Engagement, How to Volunteer to Serve on Local Boards and Commissions. My name is Kathleen Fox and I work for the City of Austin's Housing and Planning Department, and I do manage the Imagine Austin speaker series. The Imagine Austin speaker series at its core is the opportunity to promote and implement the policies of the Imagine Austin Comprehensive Plan, the City of Austin's 25-year plan for the future, through shared dialogue and mutual learning. We do this by inviting targeted thought leaders, both locally and nationally, to speak in a variety of fields, including land use, affordable housing, mobility, public health, social equity, and sustainability, just to name a few. Our sponsors this evening are the City of Austin's Housing and Planning Department and the Office of the City Clerk with the City of Austin. We have 4 speakers this evening. We have 3 board and commission members and our featured speaker, which is Myrna Rios. I'll briefly go over the backgrounds of our 4 speakers. Myrna Rios currently serves as the interim city clerk with the Office of the City Clerk for the City of Austin. She is responsible for overseeing support service functions such as the council-approved records program, boards and commissions, and the public recognition process. Myrna has over 19 years of municipal experience, specifically in municipal elections, campaign finance, providing city council support, contract management, and personnel management. She is recognized by the Texas Municipal Clerks Association as a Texas registered municipal clerk and has served as a guest lecturer on the topic of special elections for home rule cities. Myrna holds a master's degree from St. Edward's in Human Services. Our 3 board and commission members in order are Asar, who is a community and regional planning PhD student at the University of Texas, Austin. He is an affordable housing, social justice, and transportation advocate who serves on the City of Austin's Planning Commission, the Project Connect Community Advisory Committee, and the Austin Economic Development Corporation Board. Nadia Ramirez manages cross-agency transit and mobility programs at Capital Metro, where she started the Transit Speed and Reliability Program in 2018. Nadia is a native Austinite and is passionate about working collaboratively with stakeholders to provide high quality and sustainable transportation options to Austin residents and visitors, and she serves on the Zoning and Planning Commission. Katie Coyne served for 3 years on the Environmental Commission and Joint Sustainability Committee. She recently vacated her commission position to accept a job with the City of Austin as the Environmental Officer and Assistant Director of the Watershed Protection Department. In 2019, Katie won the Austin Under 40 Award in the Architecture, Engineering, and Construction category. For housekeeping issues, this event is being recorded, and approximately a week it will be posted on the Imagine Austin Speaker Series website. The chat feature has been muted, but if you have questions, which we will take at the end of this presentation, you can type them in the Q&A Zoom widget. Our format this evening will be approximately 30 to 35 minutes by our 4 presenters, and then we will take your questions. Before I hand it off to Myrna, at the end of this presentation, please fill out the survey. We want to know how we're doing and how you like this event, and if you have any topics or speakers you'd like to see in the future. And one last thing, before we give it off to Myrna, we have a brief survey question, which I would be appreciative if you filled out regarding your interest in serving on a City of Austin board and commission. Thank you so much for attending our event.
So we have a few polls responses coming in. So we'll give you guys another second to fill out the poll and then we'll show the results. Wonderful. Thank you all for filling out our poll. I will pass it back to Kathleen to introduce our first speaker.
Our first speaker is Myrna Rios, who is the interim city clerk for the city of Austin. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Myrna, and with me is Stephanie Hall. She's our boards and commissions extraordinaire. Thank you all for having us and for all of the participants joining us this evening. So let's go ahead and get started with a fun fact. I guess, did you know that the city of Austin has over 70 boards and commissions with over 400 members and 170 staff liaisons, all of which at one point our office, meaning Stephanie and our other boards and commissions staffer Joseph, has worked with individually. And this, even through the pandemic. So that's our fun fact. Next page, please, or slide. So a little bit about the clerk's office. So we're a very small office in comparison to the rest of the organization. We have a total of 27 FTEs with a budget of almost $5 million. It's our duty to be efficient, compliant, and transparent by providing application scalability, accessibility, and infrastructure capability that fosters effective sharing of information for all of us. Next slide, please. So of the 27 staffers, clerk staff, 3 of us make up the board and commissions team. But again, all of the credit goes to Stephanie and or Joseph, as they are responsible of communicating all of information, onboarding members, training staff liaisons, managing the appointment process, and serving as the liaison between staff and the city council. Next slide, please. So although we are small in size, the clerk's office has 3 divisions that are listed here. And so the city clerk is typically known as the local official that records local government history and runs municipal elections. But behind the scenes, there is so much more to what we do. So for the city of Austin, we serve as the official that records government history. We run municipal elections and coordinating with Travis County, Williamson County, Bastrop counties. And just real quick, another fun fact, we have a potential of having 3 elections in the year 2022. I mean, what other city does that, or state? So we are also responsible of the city being transparent by providing access to city records. We are the compliance officer for federal, state, and local statutes, the Texas Open Meetings Act, campaign finance reporting, financial disclosure statements, such as financial information and personnel financial information, lobbyist registration, conflict of interest. I can go on and on. So sorry for derailing, but next slide, please. So with that, the purpose of today's webinar is to provide you with an overview of how the public can apply to be appointed to the various boards and commissions. As mentioned early, the OCC serves as the liaison between council, staff liaisons, and you, the public. Shortly, we'll provide you information on where to go on the webpage to apply to serve on a board or commission. We will also review the onboarding process if you're nominated. For example, the mandatory training and taking of the oath and office requirements. Next slide, please. So if you're interested in serving on the boards and commission, a board or commission, you can visit our Boards and Commissions Information Center webpage, which is at austintexas.gov / boards and commissions. There you can learn all about each board and commission and review their past meeting documents, their bylaws, who currently serves, if there is a vacancy, and also where you can apply, or you can just follow the apply following the link that is attached. I feel like y'all can see me and I'm pointing at the presentation, sorry. So,
Alicia, hold on one second. Alicia, could you make the slide a little smaller because we can't see the address at the bottom. Thank you.
Click on full screen mode down there and
Yeah.
work.
Make it slightly smaller so we could see the slide email address or the website.
oh, I'm seeing messages that it can be seen on their end, so that's good. So if you are interested, go ahead and apply, but when you do apply, the application will ask you for information, for your contact information, your email address, if you're a resident of Austin, if you are employed with the city or have been in the past. It asks questions like if you're a registered lobbyist with the city, what your interests and experiences are. You can also upload a resume, so that's pretty helpful. Next slide, please. If you do decide to apply and you successfully submit your application, in order to be appointed to a board and commission, you must meet the listed requirements. So you need to be a resident of Austin and have an active application on file. It's important to note that some boards and commissions have additional requirements, meaning there are boards and commissions that will require a specific number of seats to obtain or have an expertise in the subject area of the advisory board. Some of the panelists can explain their additional requirements serving on a sovereign board. So nominations will require a vote of the council members, and you will be considered or are considered a city official when appointed, and all the training requirements and oath are completed. Next slide, please. So when applying, be sure to not limit yourself to just one board and commission. Be sure to just to select all of the boards and commissions that pique your interest and are right to serve on. Be sure that you successfully complete all the requirements when prompted through the application process. And know that it's okay and it is encouraged for you to contact the mayor or council district representative to inform them of your interests and that you have submitted an application. And you see that, if there's a vacancy, reach out to them. It's okay. We need you. We want you to serve. Next slide, please. So once you've successfully applied and are nominated and hopefully appointed by the council, you'll work with either Stephanie or Joseph in our office to schedule a new member training. Because of the pandemic, the training we currently conduct is virtual, and it's on roles and responsibilities, ethics, and the use of city email. Once you successfully complete that training, you will take the oath of office and sign any acknowledgement of requirement forms. One of them is to agree to the terms of the city assigned email address. Additionally, there is online training that provides an overview of city government, the Texas Open Meetings Act, conflict resolution, planning and budget, and Robert's Rules of Order. Next slide, please. So as mentioned early, in order to begin service, you must sign an acknowledgement of requirements, take your oath of office that you will comply with the city ethics and personal responsibilities guidelines, and that you agree to complete all of the necessary and mandatory training within the 90 days. Within 90 days. Next slide, please. Once you are eligible to serve, then you'll need to maintain your eligibility. You need to ensure that you complete the required training again within 90 days. If required, be sure to complete the statement of financial information within 30 days. This only applies to a handful of boards and commissions. Be sure to comply with attendance and residency requirements and that you use a city-issued email appropriately. For example, if you receive an email on your personal email account, be sure that you forward that email to your assigned city email address if it regards boards and commissions that you serve on. The city code outlines a code of conduct that members must abide by, and part of the training includes an agreement on this piece. And it's all about how to proceed with decorum, respect others' opinions, and that you treat all members and staff with respect. Next slide, please. Terms of office. On this one, I'm just reading off the slide directly, but Stephanie is here and she can jump in if needed. But members may only serve 8 consecutive years. It excludes service prior to 2015. And board and commission officers cannot serve more than 4 consecutive years. Did I get it okay? Yeah. All right. Maybe we'll have more questions about it. Next slide, please. So public participation. As you're aware, public participation is an important part of all meetings. It provides for civil engagement, and we encourage it. Currently, for boards and commissions, there are rules that one is to follow, and they're posted on each agenda when they are posted. When a liaison posts a agenda to me, it'll provide you with the instructions on how to register to speak for that particular meeting.
This slide's talking about
Are you on mute?
council. I don't think they can hear me.
Oh, probably.
This is, I can unmute myself. I want to echo. This slide is talking about council meetings, and it's just giving you a
Stephanie? I believe we can't hear you now. I think when your interim debut clerk was muted, I think your sound cut out. On my end, I'm still unable to hear you.
Okay, well, I will mention, which I'll just provide you with some of the information she provided. This, as you can see there, we have a lot of public participation. There was, we had 3,823 speakers registered to speak so far just this year for council and council committees. So engagement, public engagement is there. Participation is there, and it's high, and even pre and post, well, not post, but currently it continues. So, and we encourage it. Next slide, please. Well, that was fast. So just, again, boards and commissions are important in that they enable the public to participate in Austin's government processes. They help shape and influence public policy, and it lends a more diverse viewpoint for the city council to consider. That concludes our presentation for now, and we'll pass it on to whoever is next. Thank you.
Thank you, Myrna. That will now go to Avis Asar.
you, Kathleen. Hi all, my name is Asar. I currently serve on the city's planning commission, and on behalf of the commission, I serve on the Joint Courts and Ordinances Committee with Nadia, which is really exciting. And I also serve on the Project Connect Community Advisory Committee. That's similar to a city commission, but slightly different in that we serve three different bodies, which is Capital Metro, the Austin Transit Partnership, and the City of Austin. But our clerk's office and our city staff have been amazing in helping us through that process. I started serving on commissions in 2016, and I first served on the LGBTQ Quality of Life Commission. And as part of that commission, I served on the Joint Inclusion Committee, and then I went over to the Community Development Commission, went over to Planning Commission. So I've sort of done a number of different kinds of service, and all of those have been really crucial and interesting and important to me. And what really got me interested in this was really that it's a great opportunity to serve your community. I would highly recommend to anyone who wants to serve this community and engage in the work that we're trying to do, because you can engage in some really critical conversations that really matter and shape policies and shape decisions that are being made by our elected representatives and our city staff. And it's also at the same time allowed me to personally grow and learn so much. Like I wouldn't even be able to say like so much is all I can say. I'm not originally from Austin. I came from Pakistan in 2013, and I moved here directly to Austin. And being on boards and being involved in this work has really allowed me to engage and work in what the city's doing and in work on the ground. It's funny. I was preparing for this. I was thinking I've probably had one-on-one conversations with over 300 people during my service, and I've probably received testimony from over 1,000 people in the entire time of service. So really, I've gotten to know so many amazing people and work with so many great people like Katie, like Nadia, like our staff here. And it's been a great opportunity. It has also really helped me in advocating for the issues that I care about and what are the things that really matter to me. And that was some of the information and background that I had coming into this work. Was I'm an affordable housing advocate and an LGBTQ plus advocate, and I brought a lot of that to the work that I was trying to do. But I really just want to clarify to something. I would say, if you feel like, oh, I don't have the credentials or I don't have as much knowledge as I would have, just go for it. The real thing is going to be passion and commitment. If you're committed to our community and you have passion for serving this community, just go for it. Because there's so much, again, that I learned as I went along, so much learning on the job, so to speak. And really, the things that I've learned have been anything related to housing and planning, learning a lot about how our city functions. There was so much that I did not know in terms of who did what and how things function. I've learned so much over these years. And then I think one of the most important things, I've gotten to know some amazing people. I really like people in this space, but so many other people. I've taken away friendships, and those really have lasted beyond whether I've served on commissions or not. And I would say, in terms of, as you're serving and how do you make some of these decisions, if you're trying to think about that, it really is thinking about what is good and equitable and fair for our city and all of its residents. And sometimes, I'll be honest, it's a bit of a challenge because you have to get out of your own self and what you might think, and it's about thinking larger. But again, I think it's a part of learning, and then really seeing how do we as a community meet some of our goals and live up to our values and build on the success that we've had on so many different things around affordable housing, around rights for people of color, rights for LGBTQ people. How do we make sure that we build on that? I think that's a really exciting part of it. And I would think that, why do I think it's really critical for anyone who wants to serve? This is sort of the last thing I'll say. And really, you get to shape our city and its policies and the things that we do here. This is all really important. It impacts each and every one of us. And there's no way that you can actually minimize that. So really, that's really critical in being able to shape some of the work that is happening here. It also, I think these commissions are really important because they really allow residents to have a voice. As just a resident of the city, I get to have a voice in the process. I get to really engage in it. I get to engage with other people who do the same work. And at the same time, I get to go to other commissions and talk as a community member to those commissioners to pass on a message. So really, this is really part of our democracy here and part of how we do work here. It's so critical. And then really Again, I'm really just going to end by saying to y'all, if you're interested, do it. This is such an exciting opportunity. You will not regret it. All those folks in the poll who said they were on the fence, I would say jump on the other side of the fence and just go ahead and fill the application. Believe me, it will be worth it. And one of the things that you'll really walk away with is, I'm just looking at it, right? There's nearly 80 people who signed up to hear about this. This is it. This is the value of our community and engaging. And that's what makes this so much exciting and fun work. And it's really valuable work for our community. So I'll stop there and happy to answer any questions towards the end.
Thank you very much, Avis. That will now go to Nadia Ramirez, who will speak about her experiences serving on the Zoning and Planning Commission. Thank you.
Sure. And I just want to echo a lot of what Away said, that, I actually I was a city employee for 9 years before I became a commissioner. And so when I moved over to working for Cap Metro, I was like, this is my time to serve. I no longer have to, I worked for the Public Works Department. So I felt like and I saw that question in the chat, I felt like a lot of the issues I'd be working on as a commissioner would be in kind of some conflict and I'd have to recuse myself. So once I started working for Cap Metro, I figured I could join a commission, and I reached out to my council member, and I said, I'll do anything with transportation. I like transportation. And so he appointed me to the Airport Advisory Committee, which was awesome. It meets out at the airport, and I learned so much about the front of the house and the back of the house and the luggage. And I mean, it was super interesting to learn about what's going on at the airport, all the issues that they experience. And so one of the things that was nice about it, didn't have a ton of public input, but they were making some really exciting decisions, and it was super, it was growing a lot. And so I did learn about Robert's Rules of Order and how to conduct a meeting and all of those things that I was really nervous about. Just going to the
She's frozen. Oh, there. Okay. You're back. You're back.
Okay. I'll turn, sorry. My internet connection must not be that good. So let's see, I was talking about airport advisory. Then I got appointed by the mayor to ZAP, which I was super nervous about because they really do make some big land use decisions about the outer ring of our city. And so all of those kind of greenfield sites, a lot of the time that are ripe for redevelopment is what we're talking about. And so I used what I learned in airport advisory with the Robert's Rules of Order and how to conduct a meeting. But then for the longest time, for months, I would come home after a meeting and go, oh, I should have said that, or, oh, I wish I would have done that thing, or I wish I would have just, so I really, it did take some time, but I did find my voice. I did eventually, I learned how to speak up, and I learned how to say what was important to me. And I think that's the beauty of having a diverse group of people sitting on the dais, is that everybody has a different perspective and something to contribute. And so I think that was valuable to me. So just learning that I had something to contribute, and that the things that I contribute may influence how someone else thought about a certain case was pretty valuable. I also serve on joint codes and ordinances, which is we don't know what's happening with the land development code, so that's our opportunity to make small incremental changes for the betterment of the cities, which is very exciting. And then the final thing that I would echo a lot of what Away said is that we are impacting change, even if it's incremental, and even if your case or your discussion doesn't go the way that you want, sitting on the dais and making the comments is valuable. So I think just being able to collaborate with smart people and learning how to find middle ground, those things I've done a lot of time on my show.
You're frozen again for some reason.
I think it must be my bandwidth, but anyway, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to work with people collaboratively, even though it can be really challenging sometimes. But I think it helps me grow, and I hope that my other commissioners, also appreciate it. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Nadia. I appreciate it.
Sure.
We'll now go on to Katie Cohn.
My name is Katie Coyne. I'm a bit of an anomaly here today because I'm actually vacated both of my positions on boards and commissions recently. But just to reiterate, I served as vice chair of Environmental Commission for 3 years, as well as the Joint Sustainability Committee. And just to maybe speak a little bit on that, there are a couple of joint committees throughout the city that draw from different boards and commissions. So Environmental Commission has a representative on the Joint Sustainability Committee, as well as from many other boards and commissions, which is one of those key places where we get those kind of crossover conversations happening, pulling all that information and work that's happening on boards and commissions that might have a really specific focus. One other example, I think Aves already talked about the Joint Inclusion Committee, and if he didn't, that's one other example that pulls from other quality of life boards and commissions. So I've served on both of those, and I've learned so much and built so many good relationships from that experience. It's been one of the most valuable things I've done in my life in the last couple of years, and I kind of that has really made for a really cool transition because unlike Nadia, who was someone who came from city staff, is now at Project Connect Cap Metro, and is now serving on boards and commissions. I, made a lot of those relationships, learned a lot more about the city, and am now the city's environmental officer, which, I'm a key liaison to the Environmental Commission that I used to serve on, as well as serving as assistant director of the Watershed Protection Department. So I came to serve on the commission. There's kind of a fun anecdote about this. So I initially was appointed by Jimmy Flanagan. I asked one of his staff members to go to lunch with me to ask them if they would serve on the Equality Texas board with me. So that's a nonprofit board. It's the largest LGBTQ advocacy and lobbying organization in the state. And they said, no, but will you serve on Environmental Commission? So they kind of got me. And I'm glad they did, though, because again, it's been super impactful. I have a pretty technical background. So my undergrad is in environmental science, in wildlife ecology and zoology. And so had kind of historically worked in environmental science field and have that technical background, but also have a planning and sustainable design background where I try to kind of bring together thinking around equity and justice with that environmental and public health and climate justice and sustainability thinking. So I'm definitely one of the folks on Environmental Commission, or was, who kind of brought in that more technical expertise, but did want to also mention that that does not preclude folks without technical expertise from serving. We probably about 50% of our board on average at any moment are folks who are just maybe passionate about the environment. We have a musician, we've had journalists and artists and other folks who have long-term advocacy or passion for environmental issues who have served and been very effective boards and commissions members. I think thinking about how you balance this work with other work is important. And so the work on Environmental Commission gave me a chance to, and on Joint Sustainability Committee, gave me a chance to really get a deep dive into a lot of things that helped me be even more impactful in some of my other roles. So when I first started serving, I was in the private sector. So I was a consultant doing urban planning, urban design, landscape architecture work for a consulting firm here in town that did work in Austin, but also in many other cities. And I took lessons learned from Environmental Commission and boards and commissions in Austin. And that influenced my projects across the country in my consulting work, which was fantastic. On top of that, I was also involved with a number of nonprofit boards that are directly related to Environmental Commission, including Austin Outside, which is a coalition group of environmental and parks and adjacent nonprofits that do advocacy here locally to promote parks equity, environmental issues, et cetera. And so really being a liaison between this more formal city board and that nonprofit sector coalition was really key. I also served on the Trail Foundation board. So that's, again, like another space where that kind of conduit ended up being really impactful and magnified my ability to be impactful in the community. I think just want to echo what Aves said about thinking bigger as a commissioner. I think a lot of new commissioners come in because they might be passionate about something that's happening in their neighborhood, on their street, really at a scale that is a little bit more small scale than I think what we want to encourage board members and commissioners to really think at. So I think one of the questions that came up really talked about asking about, like, are you representing your district or are you representing your city? And my answer anyway is you're representing the city as a whole and the larger long-term values of what is going to make this city more just, more resilient. Depending on coverage, so throughout the process of being a board member or commissioner, you're going to have ongoing conversations with staff in your appointing council member's office, and different staff and different council members have different opinions about kind of alignment of values. Some might want to make sure that they have someone who really aligns with values, and others might feel a little bit more like, it's okay if we differ on things, but I want you to be passionate and committed. And so that's just a conversation that you need to have with the potential appointing council member. For instance, when I was Jimmy Flanagan's representative, we didn't always agree, but he always had my back because he knew how passionate I was and how committed I was to doing the work. I want to also mention, there was a question about how much time people spend on boards and commissions. I would say the work that happens in the designated meetings, and actually maybe this is a good time to mention that all different boards and commissions have different time commitments just for the meetings themselves. So some boards and commissions meet once a month. Environmental Commission meets twice a month, and then I had an additional commitment for the Joint Sustainability Committee. So that was one more time a month, but then there's also committees that you'll be asked to serve on to the capacity that you're able. A lot of the most impactful work doesn't actually happen in the meeting that you're attending. It happens in the committee meeting. It happens outside of that work, advocacy with individual council members, working with staff, etc. So I think really being aware of what your ability is to commit to that kind of work is important. There's a full range of commissioners and board members who show up to meetings and are impactful, in those conversations, and those voices are really important, who don't have as much capacity to engage in the way that probably us and I have done in the past. Avis is a good friend of mine, so I know his nature. I don't know as much about Nadia. But then also, just last two things, if that's okay. So I think I had 5 minutes and I have no idea where I'm at, but council offices are this other place where even if it's a council office that you're not appointed by, there's a real opportunity to be really impactful because you're so plugged into the work of your commission. So one of the things I did when I was on environmental commission was actually worked with not my council member's office, with Leslie Poole's office, as well as other council members, to put together a resolution that they passed after we passed recommendations supporting this idea of developing a resilience plan for the city of Austin, hiring a chief resilience officer. And so that was a year, 2 years of really working outside of the meetings to build momentum around that idea. And then the other thing is, through my work on environmental and on joint sustainability, I ended up being asked to serve as co-chair of a really community-led steering committee for the climate equity plan that just got approved by council not that long ago. So that also was an additional commitment for me, but honestly, the most impactful thing I did of the entire service of boards and commissions. But that was, again, an extra 2 hours of meetings bi-weekly, plus one-on-ones, plus, but again, Avis and I at least are on the far end of the spectrum on time spent. So I'll stop there, but excited to answer any questions folks have, and can't say enough about how impactful this has been, and just really feeling connected to community, especially right now in this COVID era, has felt really special.
Thank you so much, Katie, for those inspiring words. We're now, anybody can submit questions in the Q&A, and my coworker Alicia will read out the questions. We're here for you. This is your time to ask any questions you have about serving on boards and commissions to any or all of our presenters. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Kathleen. So we did have a few questions that were submitted, and like Kathleen mentioned, we really encourage you to submit more. We have a good amount of time for questions, so please keep them coming in. So one of the questions that was asked, and several of you touched on this, for those of you who are commissioners or in the past were commissioners, what was one of the #1 things that inspired you to get civically involved? So again, you touched on it, but was there one thing that stood out that really said, I need to get involved in my local government? And any of you can jump in and answer the question.
I guess I'll start by saying, I think one of the things that was really part of that was going and speaking at commissions before I even joined one. There were a number of commissions I showed up because as a community member, I wanted to add something or share something. And that was something where I really saw the value of the work that the commissions do. And I wanted to see what the other side looked like. So that was really what drove me into applying and serving on a commission. I will say, knowing from a lot of friends now that serve on commissions, there's different things that inspire people to serve. And I think a lot of it just comes down to the fact that there's a commitment to serving here and serving our own community that's so critical.
For me, it was, I was on the city side working for the city's first urban trail master plan, and I worked a lot with the Environmental Commission, and I worked, speaking to the UTC and other boards. And I think after having that experience, I wanted to be on the other side and kind of help make decisions. And the unique position I'm in, and Katie, you'll know too, but it's the reverse, is that I empathize a lot with the staff because I understand the challenges they're going through. And I'm probably the only one on the dais that was a former staff member. So I do understand a lot of those issues, but I think I wanted to impact change the way I saw those environmental commissioners impacting change. And so that was what inspired me to serve.
For me, I have trouble saying no is the short answer. The long answer is, I think for me, I was already involved in other nonprofit work in both LGBTQ advocacy and as well as environmental and parks advocacy. And, this is a little bit of it's a different experience than that kind of service. And I think seeing that process firsthand was really compelling to me. So it certainly also, I think, has felt even more impactful than some of the nonprofit service that I've done, just because how plugged in you are in the day-to-day of what is moving forward from a policy perspective. So it's super interesting work to do, and
Okay, great, thank you. So we'll move on to our next question. So someone has asked, oops, sorry, I just lost my place. Someone has asked, where can I find a list of available boards and when the relevant application processes opens for those applications? And so this might be good for our interim. Thank you.
Right. So the applications are available at all times. You can go on to the Boards and Commissions Information Center and view what vacancies there are. But if you have an interest in all vacancies, there are no vacancies, we still encourage you to apply. Someone may, just like Katie, she's been hired and she is no longer serving. So there will be 2 vacancies there that she filled. So we encourage you to continue, to fill those applications anytime.
To build on what Myrna said, I think, in my experience, very rare for someone to be appointed if you've just submitted the application. So even if there's not an opening for someone in your council district or for your council member, it is important to build that relationship before the opening exists. Because if the opening exists all of a sudden they probably already have someone in mind. And that said, I also, just so y'all know, I don't live in either of the council districts that I actually ended up serving in. So Jimmy Flanagan didn't live in D6. And then Councilmember Asar ended up appointing me when Jimmy Flanagan was no longer on council. And I'm not in either of those districts. So.
Great, thank you. So 2 questions. Are there age restrictions or qualifications for applying for a board or commission? And can city staff serve on a board or commission?
I would say with respect to the age, it would, I mean,
It varies.
it varies and it would be at least, 18 years and older. It's not that I'm aware of. It's not, we'd have to do some more research on that, but we've never been asked that question. With regard to, what was the second part of the question?
If City of Austin employees are allowed to serve on a board or commission?
They are, but there are restrictions, and it's not to every single board and commission, but there is an opportunity. There are, I mean, it is allowed with restrictions.
Okay, thank you. So a question that came in, oh, I'm sorry. Did
I
someone
was
else?
going to say, I'm just going to quickly add something here. I think a lot of questions are coming up and your folks are trying to figure out their own situation. The name of the game here is flexibility. And believe me, our staff is amazing. If you're like, oh, I can't figure this out, I don't know, they'll make it work. Believe me, if you live outside the city, they'll work on if there's a resident waiver that you need to get. If you live in a different district, your council members will still figure out a way to appoint you. If there's anything and everything going on, believe me, these folks will really help you to make sure that you can serve in the way you want to serve. So I would definitely say do not get discouraged by things like those if that is what's keeping you away from serving. So just wanted to make that broad comment.
Thank you. And to add to that, you're not required to apply just to vacancies within your district. You can apply across the board.
Thank you. That was actually our next question, if you had to reside in your district. So thank you so much for answering that. We also had a specific question, but our commissioner actually spoke to that. So what would be the best way to dive into the descriptions of the boards and commissions and figure out which one is a good fit for you? Do you guys recommend reading through all the descriptions? I'm trying to talk to active board or commission members. Did you have to do that as well? How does someone best find a commission that fits them?
I can take that. There's a lot of boards and commissions, and I think that's a tough question because I don't think there's any resources out there in terms of matching. But I think maybe creating a short list and then watching some of the recent meetings. So all the meetings need to be recorded, either audio or video recordings, is my understanding. And so you can kind of watch and get a sense of what's happening on these boards and commissions. Also, existing members have contact information posted on the city page. So if you want to reach out to existing members to try to understand a little bit more about what the work that they're doing looks like on the boards or commissions, you'll get some positive reception there, hopefully. I think also it was obvious for me because my technical background is in environmental science, but I think it's really just about knowing what you're passionate about. So it would have been just as easy for me to serve on the LGBTQ Quality of Life Commission because that's a core part of my identity. So I think figuring out between your expertise, what you're passionate about, what's important to your family, what's your identity, those are all things that you have to factor into your decision about what board or you're going to serve on. And then I think also just thinking about the time commitment and the profile that you're going to have. I think like some of the planning commission and ZAP, it's a lot of work and it's a very public position that you're taking on that sometimes is contentious. And I think whether or not you want to be a part of something like that is something that you should consider. There's certainly other boards and commissions that are a little bit more kumbaya, to be perfectly honest. And I think that's part of the consideration you should certainly take.
I would add to that, I think also think of it the other way around. Think of what your interest is and believing there's a commission for it. Really, our city has a vast, if you're interested in children, believing there's an early childhood council, you're interested in environmental commission, aviation, pets, you name it. We have our community members involved in everything that the city thinks about, works on, and cares about. So I would say figure out what are things that you care about and go and look, and you'll probably find a commission that matches that. So, and then go ahead and apply to those, and if vacancies come up, you can find a space for them. So I think of it in both ways, both in terms of going through all of them and seeing if there's anything that piques your interest, but also what am I interested in, and finding the commission that works best in accordance with that.
I would like to say too, we spoke earlier about getting to know your council member. If you can get to know your council member and if there is some kind of missing position and you've already submitted an application, then they can match you with your interests. So I think if you can just submit an application, and then they'll know that you're out there and interested, and then they can help match you with what fits your needs.
Thank you. Those are all great responses. We got quite a few questions about folks really trying to be intentional and choosing the right board and commission. So that's actually really helpful. So we're coming up to 6 o'clock. I will say that we also have a city staff member in the Q&A function right now, manually asking questions. Additionally, we typically won't do this, but because we had such a great discussion, I will also be taking our questions and the answers and putting them on our Speak Up page as well. So after this meeting, you'll get a link to the survey, and then in subsequent days, we'll send you all a link to the questions and the video. So I'm going to do one more question, and then I will let Kathleen come and close us out.
And if we could do one or two more questions, because we still have 6 minutes. So if we could be brief, we might get 2 questions in.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so I see that this is also currently being asked, but just for the sake of the entire group, any advice on starting or building a relationship with council members? And so I could imagine that being a board or commission member, you might meet council in that regard, but it sounds like there's also interest in getting to know them, and perhaps that would benefit them when they're serving on a board and commission. So for all of you as our speakers, do you have any advice on how to get to know their council members? Any tips or tricks?
Nadia, do you want to go ahead? I feel like you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, for me, you just call their office and talk to their constituent liaison. That's the easiest thing to do, or you can send them an email. But, they generally get back to you pretty quickly, and especially if you express an interest in serving, and if they have a vacancy, they might really be interested in getting back to you quickly. But that's kind of how I communicate with my council member.
And let's be clear. I mean, when we say build relationship with your council member, we really mean build relationship with your council member staff. And some council members are more hands-on than others, but really those are the folks who are going to be able to make that connection when there is an opening. And you might get some FaceTime with your council member depending on who it is, but really the policy staff, the constituent liaison, those are the folks you're interacting with. That said, I think the other thing too is some folks, end up volunteering as part of the council members campaign, and then they get plugged in if they get elected. So if you're, interested and really believe in a council member who's running for office in your district, I think that's also a way to build a relationship early on, even before they're in that position. And I know that's, Vanessa Fuentes, I think, for instance, one of her appointee to Environmental Commission was someone who volunteered as a part of her campaign and is really passionate about the environment. And so that's how she got plugged in. Certainly not a mandate, but another way that I've seen folks build those relationships.
I just want to thank all 4 of you for speaking. This is Kathleen, Myrna, Avis, Nadia, Katie. You did great. This was one of my favorite speaker series, and I've done about 40 of them now. So thank you all for participating. One final thing, I need everybody to please, please, please fill out the survey. I want to know what you thought of this Imagine Austin speaker series. And then we also have, we can take your suggestions for upcoming speakers and topics you want to see in the future. We typically do 4 to 8 Imagine Austin speaker series a year. And if you would fill out your survey, we can again get your opinion about this speaker series. I hope you enjoyed it and what you want to see in the future. So thank you all for coming to this Imagine Austin speaker series, which I've been trying to organize for 3 years now. We did it. And thank you again to all my speakers and Alicia. Have a great evening. And again, this will be posted, this video will be posted about a week from now on the Imagine Austin speaker series website. Thank you again.
And
Bye-bye.
just really quickly, thank you to Stephanie Hall because she has
Oh,
responded
thank you,
to the majority
Stephanie.
of the questions. So good job, Steph.
I forgot about Stephanie. Thank you,
No, you're good.
Stephanie.
No worries.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all so much.
Bye. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Good night.